Welcome to the Vikings Playbook. This is our first episode of the Vikings Playbook, and I just want to welcome you to it. And I'm excited for where we might go with this podcast. But the Vikings Playbook, we plan on doing Vikings pregame shows weekly. And at the same time, we plan on featuring your favorite purple team, the Minnesota Vikings. So each week, we will also do film breakdown. We will talk about analyzing the game, but then also bring on exciting guests. And with us today, we do have an exciting guest for you, which is Kris Shewokis. And Chris comes to us from Vikings Gallahorn. So he's Vikings Gallahorn on X. You can follow him on social media. On X, he's at TGJ, basically T Gallahorn 1. So go ahead and follow him on social media. And I want to go ahead and welcome him onto the stage. So with no further ado, Chris, can you hear us? We were having some issues earlier, but Chris, I can't see your video, but I can hear you in the background.
Yeah. Um,
So I
yeah,
lost you on video.
I turned the video off because it was still lagging quite a bit, so we'll have to try to roll with this for right now.
Okay.
Until
So
I get
as we work through that, I did have a pretty exciting day which was kind of cool that I want to share with everyone. So I had the opportunity to go with my son and actually meet Chuck Foreman. So legendary Vikings running back, 5-time Pro Bowler, 3 times to the Super Bowl. Didn't get a win, but Chuck Foreman. So pretty exciting. My son and I. Here's a picture of us. It was just a really cool experience, and trying to explain to my son how great Chuck Foreman was, uh, just got him even more excited because we play football all the time. Just my son and I, even just downstairs watching Vikings games, and not only was I able to visit with Chuck Foreman and talk with him a little bit, but if you can see that, also got a Chuck Foreman autographed jersey, which is extremely cool for any Minnesota Vikings fan. So awesome experience. Chuck Foreman, you're a great individual. And just thank you so much for taking the time out to be extremely nice, not only to me, and you're my dad's favorite Vikings player of all time, but then also for my son. You made my son Easton's experience uh, unforgettable as well. So, huge thank you and shout out to Chuck Foreman, all time NFL legend and Vikings great. Now, with that, Chris, other than video audio issues that we have going on tonight, I had some other
That's
issues
awesome.
go on with YouTube. Again, first pod, and of course, it has to happen where we have little things happen to where this will later be uploaded onto YouTube. But please, if you're not already, follow us on X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Please follow us, subscribe, and set your alerts on YouTube. That way, that you're not missing any of our shows. So as we go ahead and we start to dig into this, the very first thing I want to do is take a look at our matchup that we're going against this week, and that is the New York Giants. Now, the tail of the tape, Chris, 2-12, the New York Giants, they're 31st, at least ranked stats per PFF. Their offense, they're towards the back of the league. Defense, even worse. And they're not very good on special teams. Now, we come in with a 6-8 record. We've been getting better. Our overall ranking, we're at 19th, so we're climbing the rankings a little bit. And then also offense, we've been good the last 2 games. Our defense, I feel, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. I feel like our defense has been solid all year based on what they've been given because of the lack of consistency and inefficiencies of the offense. And then, of course, our special teams has been ranked first for a good chunk of the year. And a lot of that's due to the leg of Will Reichard. Uh, Brian Wright has been doing some good punting that we saw last week. And then Miles Price, most of the year, has been really solid for us as well. But when you take a look at this tail of the tape, Chris, what do you kind of glean from this in this matchup? and I think I even lost Kris for a second. So, um, as Kris is coming back, I'll just talk through this. The tail of the tape between these two teams, yes, absolutely. Is there a disparity between these two teams? Absolutely is. But we still have a lot to play for. I wrote about it this week, and another exciting thing for me is, I'm now writing for purpleptsd.com, and that's super exciting as well. And if you haven't already checked it out, I had an article that came out today, and that was talking about um, JJ McCarthy and the 5 key things that he needs to do to be successful this week versus the New York Giants. And when we talk about the New York Giants and their team, they've had a lot of injuries. They've lost Malik Neighbors. They've lost Cam Scatabo. They started the year with Russell Wilson, and now they have Jackson Dart, who he's in his rookie year. He's had some spurts where he's looked good, and at the same time, Jackson Dart, he's a rookie. He's learning through things. And this is a Giants team that's, you know, probably looking towards next season with picks and adding picks. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily in tank mode, but they're wanting to see what their young quarterback has to offer as well. And Kris, I see you back. I'm going to go ahead and pull you back on. And I can see your video. It looks good. It looks like we have a decent connection now. Um, so the tail of the tape, as I was going through this, just what can you glean from the disparity between the two teams that we're going to see play football on Sunday?
Well, my main concern is looking at it is I want to see how the offensive line's going to hold up really against that
Hmm.
front of, uh, you know, Brian Burns and Carter, who kind of had his breakout game last week. With us not knowing, O'Neill's status and Darisaw being out, that's going to be where I want to see how it is on the trenches, early on.
Yeah, and I think in this game, there's no Kayvon Thibodeau. So that makes life a little bit easier, being that we have some issues this week at the offensive line position. So we don't have Christian Darrisaw.
Well,
Questionable is Brian O'Neill. We may not have him as well on Sunday. So, we've seen this team go through different offensive line combinations, and we might have to see another hospital type lineup again,
yep.
to where we have to kind of fill the gaps with backups. So that is a concern. But again, at least on the other side of the ball, they're missing somebody as well, which can help a little bit for pass pro.
Yep, and especially with that young secondary that they have, we've seen McCarthy get in the last couple games with passing the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kevin O'Connell's approach goes as far as calling the game and trying to keep it balanced. If he's going to try to expose those or keep it more, like we've seen the last couple of weeks, as far as just really running the ball and then not going full with McCarthy. So it'll be interesting to see how he attacks the Giants.
Now, as we're going through this, if you have questions or comments, as you're seeing below on the ticker, please make sure that you ask Kris or I anything about the Week 16 matchup. So if you're watching on X, Facebook, make sure that you drop a comment. We'll go ahead and we'll bring it up on the screen. We'll try to answer it the best that we can, or at least talk about the different comment or question that you may have. Now, last week, what we saw with the Cowboys is a, a team that was fighting for a playoff spot, and they had everything to lose. Us coming into the game, we were already eliminated, and we were still, I mean, that defense since the trade deadline, adding Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, they added 2 really good defensive players. So a lot of people want to say, weak defense.
Right.
They didn't want to give the Vikings credit for the win, 31-0 versus the Commanders.
Yep.
And then they want to say, well, you did it again against a bad defense. I would argue that that defense is a little bit better than people would give it credit for earlier in the season
Yep.
versus where it is now.
Definitely.
And not to mention, we were still able to keep up in the foot race that is the offensive track meet that the Dallas Cowboys like to put on with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens.
Yep.
And you can't forget about Javonte Williams or Ferguson. So they have offensive weapons. We forced them on the defensive side of the ball to kick 6 field goals. I mean, amazingly, Brandon Aubrey missed 2 of them, but still, our defense came through. They played really well in that game, and our offense scored 34 points.
I was actually really shocked by that. I had picked the Vikings to lose just because, I was hoping to see more consistency out of the offense as a whole, and I wasn't really sure what Flores' defense was going to be able to dial up against Dak, like you said, with all those weapons around him. And,
Mhm.
you know, he's done a great job and he continued to do a great job. And on, the offensive side, it's like you said, their defense is pretty good. I mean, yeah, they were down, down Diggs, but still, like it's a good defense to go against. And I really thought the offense was going to struggle. And I thought early on when Dallas went down and kicked a field goal right away that okay, here we go. If they're going to get out by a couple scores, how are we going to look on offense? But the Vikings proved something to me last weekend for sure.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into some of these keys to the matchup on Sunday, I just want to play this for you. And this was some of the clips from last week with the Dallas Cowboys that I wanted to pick out and kind of talk about some of these plays.
Could have said hello a little bit nicer. Loss of 3. Second and 13 pressure. Picked up. McCarthy escaping and now throwing to T.J. Hawkinson. Tight end. Good job to keep that alive.
Now, in that first play, what I wanted to point out is some of the struggles and issues that I had with J.J. McCarthy's play coming out of the backfield when he was going to find that outlet like the tight end that you saw with T.J. Hawkinson here or a running back is he'd hold the ball too long and he'd wait to deliver it. And then
Yep.
what would happen is that receiver has less time or no time to catch the ball, turn, face the defender, make a move, and maybe get extra yards after catch. That was great to see, and we saw it during this game with the Dallas Cowboys, where he's improving in that, and he's making quicker decisions,
Yep.
which is resulting in more yards, shorter second and third downs, and at the same time, possible big plays. Because, we do have playmakers that can make a guy miss and create big plays in it. And we ended up seeing that in this game. You'll see it in some of these clips as well.
You can learn more at NFL.com/inspire change. Drive 3 for Minnesota. Take it over at the 47. Swing out. Aaron Jones. Hawkinson a block first down for the Vikings. At the
Kris, there's another example. Quick out. I mean, I know it's a design screen, but he's getting it out quick.
Yep.
And he's putting it in a position where Aaron Jones is able to catch it, make a move, see where the defenders are at, and he turns it into a huge play that sets us up in the red zone.
And I think if you go back, and I think it was the game, it might have been his game against Chicago, he missed that throw. It was like one of his first throws, and he just missed a wide open Jones.
Mhm.
So to see him making those decisions, getting it out quick, and taking a little bit off of it and making the simple throws, is what we were saying early on. Like, we get it, you can throw it hard, we get it, you can throw it far down the field, but just seeing him to start complete these easy by NFL standards, quick throws is great.
Right. Yeah, no, it was good to see. And what it looks like from everything that we saw on Sunday is he's continuing. And what I wrote about today was JJ McCarthy is needing to on Sunday continue that upward trajectory that we're seeing.
35 for the Chiefs. Reddy Stewart was penalized there. Brings Minnesota to the edge of the red zone. And McCarthy on the boot, throwing it towards the end zone. Caught, held on to. Jalen Naylor in some pain,
comes
but he
the
held
stem.
on for the touchdown.
All right. So on this play, this was just him giving it everything that he has in his body, and again, he's going across his body to the left side and
Yep.
he makes a good play. I mean, it didn't look the prettiest, but he put the ball where it needed to be and zipped it in there and it results in a touchdown to Jalen Naylor.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people on X like kind of rip his mechanics on that, but
Hmm.
rolling to the left as a right-handed quarterback and making that throw, that for him to try to even get his feet set to get his mechanics right, just it wasn't going to happen. So it was a great play, a great throw, a great catch, and those are the things that we need. Hopefully, get to continue to see as he grows into the position.
Absolutely. It's a tough thing to do. And for him to be able to make the play that he did, again, I'm happy to see him make those tough plays.
Yeah,
You see, I'm not comparing the two, but I'm just saying, you see a player like a Patrick Mahomes make
yeah,
all kinds of, not ideal mechanic type
yeah.
plays, and he's applauded for it.
Yeah.
You know, let's not criticize JJ McCarthy in that moment making a touchdown pass. That's all I'm saying. If the great ones can go ahead and do that thing, I mean, let's not criticize JJ McCarthy for making a great play.
We're not used to seeing an athletic quarterback over the last few years either, so that always
That's
helps.
that's right.
Fullback C.J. Ham in the lineup for the Vikings on 3rd and 8. As McCarthy drifts, fires it
Lets it
downfield,
rip.
breaking open is Addison. Jordan Addison to the 3-yard line.
This is just one of those plays where, he's wide open, and we have seen JJ McCarthy earlier, and whether it was the mechanics thing or whatnot, overthrow that ball or
Yeah,
somehow be off. He threw it where he needed to. Obviously, as you could see, if he hits him in stride, that's a touchdown. Uh, but I'll take it.
yeah,
He made sure he put it to where his guy can get the ball. We completed the pass for a huge play that sets us up for a touchdown. So I'll take it. I'm not going to be too critical on it, but it's great to see that our receivers are getting the separation,
yep,
and now JJ just needs to find them and make the
yep.
throw.
Yeah, he's definitely seen the field better the last couple weeks, and that was just a key of it there because we've seen highlights in the past weeks where Jefferson was going down the sideline wide open and he's not seeing him. That was just a sure one. Granted, Addison was wide open, but he saw him down the field. He made the pass, completed it. Like, we'll take those.
Absolutely, and if he can continue to make those type of plays, we're going to be successful as a team going forward for sure. All right, next one.
59 on the gain. McCarthy, a big shot to Addison.
Now in this play, what I want you to see
Cowboys bring 4. McCarthy
is him taking off and
steps up,
running.
takes off, puts his shoulder down, comes down short. It'll be 4th and less than a yard.
Isn't anyone left, and this is not unusual here.
I like the grit.
Yeah.
He's trying to go get the touchdown. He's not trying to slide here in this play. It's kind of a tale of two. I like him going for the end zone on that. Obviously in a lot of situations, yeah, I want you to slide.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In this moment, yeah, I want him to try to make a move and get the touchdown. He's going against a secondary defender that, I don't think he's gonna end his season there with a hit. He's trying to make a play, and I like just the edge of trying to get in the end zone.
Yeah, and it wasn't like a full blown like head on dive. He kind of like lowered his shoulder a
Mhm.
little bit, so it was almost like he was trying to protect himself as he was going in. So, we'll live with those. It's just those ones that you don't want to see like along the sideline, like fighting for a yard when there's no point to it. Go out of bounds. Avoid those ones.
Now we're gonna go over this next play because you know what's coming, and KOC was criticized for it. So let's see it.
At all for McCarthy. He doesn't slide like a baseball player. He goes head first all the time, and I think they're okay with it.
Extra lineman comes in. Fullback C.J. Ham. The big folks in on 4th and goal. McCarthy, the keeper, the walk-in. A little gritty on his way to the end zone.
That's a little nasty right there.
Touchdown, Vikings.
Add a little fun to your yard.
I like to see it. So I can look at this two ways. I spoke to my co-host on the Fantasy 15. He was saying, "Hey, I like that edge. I want to see that quarterback like a Baker Mayfield," is what Ryan was saying, and I agree.
Yep.
I agree with him on that. But I also like the maturity for him to say, yeah, I wasn't supposed to do it. I probably shouldn't have done it, type of deal. So I like him taking a step back in basically acknowledging that and saying, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. But you know what? In the moment, I like it. I like he's wide open. I know that there's a chance that, other players like Donnie Mitchell letting the
Yeah.
ball go before the end zone, that kind of thing. So yeah, he's, maturing at least in the moment where he's looking at it himself and thinking, yes, I probably should not do that. But in the moment, love it.
Yeah, I think the same. It's fun to have a quarterback with a little bit of personality. All the
Yeah.
years of Kirk, like it felt forced. Darnold, we saw it last year in like the locker room a little bit, and he had a little bit of fire, but McCarthy brings a different personality to him. I know a lot of his antics have been like meme worthy and such, but it's fun to see, and he's a kid out there having fun. Um, you know, I don't think it was as big of a deal as people made it out to be, even in KOC's presser after. Like he was basically smiling when he said it, so I don't think it was that serious. And then you had Wes talking about it in his presser later in the week, where you see players, like you said, fumble the ball early, doing the gritty. Could his knee come up and hit the ball? Sure, those type of things. But it was fun to see, and that's what this team needs. And we need some excitement as fans, and the team needs it. Just going into next season, like have some fun with what's been kind of a disappointment of a season.
Absolutely. All right, let's check out this next play.
They're going to work on it in the offseason.
Getting that running game
Jones,
going.
Right, got a great block from Ham. Oh, what a block by the fullback. And he takes it to the 38-yard line. Donovan Wilson with the tackle.
This is one of the things that has helped him be successful, and that is KOC sticking with a run game, having a balanced offense to where it's not all on his arm. And, Aaron Jones, since he's been back, when they're using him, Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, that 1-2 punch is working.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking good. And obviously having a healthy offensive line, helped. I know CD was out, but having, the other starters there definitely helps. And it's almost like Kelly, Fries, and O'Neal on that side are kind of finding their groove a little bit as we come into the end of the season now. But it's good to see them at least establishing the run now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So is that stuff fixable at this?
Think the improved numbers of J.J.
Now
McCarthy.
this next play is going to be that deep dig to
TJ
TJ Hawkinson. This is just a great throw by JJ McCarthy. This is the kind of growth I want to see.
Darrisaw, the left tackle. Justin School has held up well so far as McCarthy throws it to Hawkinson. On time and on target, out to the 45.
You're going to see it here in this next replay here, but he feathers that over the defender. And it's a dart at the same time. This is not an easy throw that he made, but it's right where it needs to be. And these are the kind of throws that we weren't seeing him connect on early, and he's connecting on them these last two games. So he has another opportunity. And yes, I understand it's not as good of a defense that we're facing here on Sunday, but we should expect him to do what he's doing against bad defenses, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So I would rather praise him for doing what he should be doing rather than saying, it means nothing. It's against a bad defense. Let's see him do it against a good defense. And although that can be true, two things can be true at the same time. He's doing what he should do against those teams. So you can take a look at the kind of success that was had by the Eagles versus the Washington Commanders defense today.
Yeah.
Not only was the offense and the defense of the Vikings, I feel like a more complete game than what you saw the Eagles do today with the Commanders. Are we gonna ding the Eagles that were going against Marcus Mariota and Josh Johnson?
Yeah.
And
They
struggled for most of the game.
Quarters. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we had Jaden Daniels for most of the game.
Yep.
So they weren't packing it in. If you were packing it in, you don't start Jaden Daniels.
Yep. You keep them out, keep them healthy.
Absolutely. All right. So let's Let's try to finish off these next
On the
plays.
yard line, big hot shot.
They're going to
there.
see this
The gain
replay
of
here.
29.
That back leg came off the ground that time. Watch his back leg. When he really rips one, it is just going to be all body. Here it comes, just like a
Just a
pitcher. And
beautiful
that
throw.
was a perfect throw. I tell you, I think I might be a couple of weeks. He's been brilliant throwing to the tight ends.
From the 44, play action right back to the air. This is Jefferson, just too tall.
What I wanted to highlight, you're going to see a couple different angles here on this one.
Pressure coming. Kenny Clark.
These are the little
Hit
throws
McCarthy as
that
he
he
tried
just
to
needs to
deliver
get
it
right.
JJ.
Yeah, kind of the story of the year. Can we say that?
Exactly.
I mean, it really
Exactly.
has been. So he comes back, rips an absolute shot in there to T.J. Hawkinson, and then the best player on the field and the guy that is one of the catch and run specialists can't hit him when he's wide open.
And that's really the truth of it. That has been the story, at least for the games that J.J. McCarthy has been playing, to where you got a wide open player. And some of the times they've been Justin Jefferson. In this game, Justin Jefferson also drops a touchdown that hits him right in the hands. So getting these two some chemistry in this game is also going to be something. And there's the fact of the Vikings want to see Justin Jefferson. KOC mentioned it. He doesn't want to be the coach under his watch, where Justin Jefferson, his streak of breaking 1,000 yards receiving, it happens under his watch. So this is going to be a game to watch where I think we will see Justin Jefferson get some more targets, because they want to get him involved. It's not just about the record. They want to see the chemistry, and some of this is building towards next year, right?
Yep. And I mean, he dropped a touchdown. They had one call off, which I think was for a illegal formation.
Mhm.
And I want to say there was probably like 2 or 3 fade routes that they tried to get it to him, in the corner. So they are trying to get him involved more. And I do think eventually it's going to start clicking as McCarthy gets more and more comfortable making these throws, and we see him keep progressing. I think it's just going to start coming a little bit more natural. And I think one thing that a young quarterback struggles with a little bit
Mhm.
is throw into a superstar, because they're always going to have, usually bracket coverage around them. So he's going to have to get comfortable just saying, hey, okay, I know he's not wide open, but I'm going to make the contested throw here. Let him go up and get it. And I think eventually they're going to get there.
Yeah, and I think that they will too. It's just a matter of them continuing to work on that, and it'll come. It'll come in due time. All right, so the next thing that we're going to go ahead and jump into is, hey, what are the 5 things that JJ McCarthy needs to do? And this is what I covered in my PTSD article. So purpleptsd.com. Go ahead and check it out. Again, that article is titled "The 5 Keys for JJ McCarthy to Build on Momentum versus the Giants." And the things I talk about is win pre and post snap. So identifying that pressure and coverages. And what's kind of funny about this is former Minnesota Viking quarterback Kirk Cousins talked about this. He gives a masterclass breakdown to reporters of how he reads defenses and how he's asked to do more as a quarterback in Minnesota. So he also talks about peer progressions. He spoke about how defense is disguised in a way that makes it, muddy, you know, and you really don't know until you're 3 steps into your drop of what kind of defense they're trying to play. So the Giants are definitely going to try to muddy the picture, as Cousins puts it, and they're going to attempt to try to take advantage of that offensive line health that, without Christian Darrisaw, possibly Brian O'Neill, they're going to try to take advantage of that. The next thing is going to be taking the check down. We went through the videos. When the check down's there, that outlet pass, he needs to go ahead and do that.
Yep.
So we want to see the yak. We want to see him get the ball out early. And sorry, Chris, anything you want to add on that?
No, I totally agree. And I think that's where he got into trouble like early on in the season, is just not taking what was there and holding on to the ball too long. Take your first read, take your second read. If it's not there, go to your outlet. Because like you said, they're going to throw a lot of different looks at him, probably early on, to try to get him rattled.
Yep. Next one, protecting the football in the red zone. We've done a good job with that. The Vikings defense, we haven't allowed a passing touchdown in 5 games. Uh, that's crazy good. But on the opposite side, we've seen the last 2 weeks our offense have very good red zone efficiency to where, Will Riker's getting a little bit more rest on the bench than he
Yeah.
typically does. He's getting to rest his leg, but we must continue to protect the ball and be efficient. And then 4, JJ must use his legs when he sees green grass. We saw that happen. He almost got into the end zone. And he ended up using his legs and a couple plays later, getting into the end zone on that amazing sneak that fooled even the TV cameras.
Yeah.
Even all 32 was tricked out by that play, which is impressive. And then just start fast and control the script. So we saw that. Well, we've seen almost every game where JJ McCarthy has done exceptionally well with the scripted first drive.
Yep.
But jumping out early and getting a score that also aids the defense, and they're now playing differently and more aggressive. So if they're able to do that, that also affects the Giants defense versus JJ McCarthy, because now it affects them as far as how hard or how aggressive they can be with disguised coverages and how often that they're trying to blitz as well. So that is something for JJ McCarthy, at least the 5 things. Now, when we take a look into this game, these are some of the 5 keys to victory that we're going to break down. I'm just going to talk through all 5, and then we're going to talk about them one by one. So 1, Vikes offensive line versus the Giants front 7, JJ McCarthy versus the Giants secondary, the Minnesota defensive front versus the Giants running back duo of Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy, the Vikings red zone efficiency versus that Giants D, Vikings success in the running game, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, and then generating pressure on the Giants quarterback rookie Jackson Dart. So those are the ones that we're going to go ahead and dive into. And very first one, let's go ahead and pull that one up. So the very first one that we're going to talk about. Oh, I apologize. I got them out of order here. There we are. All right. All right. The Vikings O-line versus the Giants front 7. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're not healthy. All right.
Nope.
So Darisaw's out. And honestly, I'm happy that he went to the IR, because what this means is he's going to be able to have the time to rest, get ready for next season, and not re-injure or injure it more than it already is, right?
Yeah, that was a weird season for him. Will he play? Won't he play? He was ahead of schedule. Like, I think this is the best thing for him right now. Whatever is going on, just let it get straightened out, let it heal up in the offseason. Hopefully he comes back really 100% next year.
Now, when we talk about our offensive line versus the Giants, they do have some players on the defensive line. That is the strong suit of this team. They got Abdul Carter. They got Dexter Lawrence, who, many of us were saying, hey, let's go get Dexter Lawrence. I mean, that was a pipe dream. That just wasn't going to happen. They also have Brian Burns that's on the defensive line as well, too, that's rushing from the other edge. So they have some players at least on the front in the trenches on defense to make this game interesting.
Yeah, and I think we saw last week it was Abdul Carter was kind of like his like, I don't want to say coming out game, but I think he had like 3 tackles for losses against Washington, and that's the one thing I kind of want to I'm hoping the Vikings can avoid is him getting going along with Burns. The last thing we want to do is have the game speed up for McCarthy. So it's going to be super important to establish our, run game early on to try to minimize their pass rush.
Absolutely. In the Vikings O-line, it's going to be crucial not only for protecting JJ, but also creating lanes for our running backs. So it's going to be important on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and Donovan Jackson, he's been playing pretty well. Again, we'll see what happens with O'Neal. That's what's going to concern me if we're going to have a fill-in over there. But most likely, it'd probably be Brandall. So we'll see how that goes. But that's my only concern is if we're down, 2 offensive linemen, and then what number combination of offensive line are we working on this year again?
Yeah, right.
They're right
We
up
lost
there
track.
with that. Yeah. So we'll see how they go. we'll see what KOC, if O'Neal is out, we'll see what KOC dials up to try to relieve some of that pressure.
I mean, when you talk about which combination, most likely we've already seen this combination because this has happened before.
Yep.
So let's go on to key number 2. JJ McCarthy versus the Giants secondary. This is where we can have some success, and this is against their secondary. They're not an impressive secondary in the backfield. Yes, Flott's been playing well for them this year, but for the most part, they can be had. Their cornerback one is Paulson Adebo that they have, and they have allowed a lot in the passing game, so they
Yep.
can be had. That is where we can be effective if JJ has enough time to be able to throw the ball.
Yep. Yeah, I mean they're really young in the secondary, and I think JJ's going to find a lot of success towards the middle of the field. I think their front seven is going to be overly aggressive. So,
Mhm.
seeing Hawkinson, probably a little bit of Oliver, probably work in the middle of the field. I do think we're going to find a lot of open space in the middle of the field. And that's where hopefully they take advantage of them.
So I wrote about this today, and I think what they're going to try to do is, like I talked about muddying the waters for JJ McCarthy. They may act like they're going to bring pressure with the blitz. A lot of the times they're probably going to drop back into that zone, and some of those quick decisive passes that JJ we saw versus the Cowboys, they're going to try to step into some of those lanes.
Yeah.
So they're going to step out of the A gaps, fall back a little bit, and try to capitalize on some of that. Now, with that, this is where we're going to struggle a little bit if they're able to do this. If they're able to get pressure with their front four without having to send the blitz, that could make it a longer day to where yes, JJ's going to have to take those outlet flat passes
Yep.
to get out of trouble and check downs if they're able to drop extra into coverage. But that's what I see being the main battle for JJ McCarthy on this key number 2, and how does he react?
Yeah, I think he's definitely seeing it better. So that's one is going to be key. He's reading them better over the last couple weeks, and like you said, right now is like just take the flats. We'll live to fight another day.
Mhm.
Don't force it where it's not. We saw that early on where he had so much time in the pocket, he was just forcing it into tight windows because teams were dropping back. They're
Right.
dropping them all back into coverage, and he's trying to squeeze it in there when you have Aaron Jones or Mason, for a quick dump off, and that is going to be where he needs to live tomorrow if they do that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Yep. No, we move on to number 3, Minnesota defensive front versus the Giants running back duo. We're suffering a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. We don't have Jonathan Grenard. Him and Josh Metellus are done for the year, so we lose
Yeah.
2 big starters from this defensive team. And Josh Metellus is he kind of plays a little bit of everywhere. He's almost like a linebacker at times too, so he does affect that running game on the defensive front as well. So we're going to rely on a lot of maybe even some rookies in there. We saw Hargrave being shut
Yeah.
down as well. So what that means is we're going to see a lot more LDR, so Levi Rodriguez, and then we're also going to see a lot more of Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, I think, and Elijah Williams.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Dallas Turner, who I felt has kind of turned come around the corner a little bit this season. Not so much the last game, but the 2 games before that, we were starting to see more of those splash plays, and him filling in for Grenard is going to be huge. I think that's more of a natural spot for him as far as just rushing the QB. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does tomorrow and if he can really get to that. Get pressure on Dart, crash. Keep him in the pocket and force anything straight up the middle.
Yes, and Tyrone Tracy has been, he's kind of a dual threat, but he's more of a threat, I think, in the passing game than he is running the ball. In the short yardage game, you're going to see a lot more of Devin Singletary than you will Tracy. But that's the way that the league's going with a 1-2 punch.
Yep.
So you see us even doing it. Everyone's kind of copying that Detroit Lions type scheme that they have as a running game. All right, so defensive front, we want to see a lot more of Dallas Turner, not just attacking, and we're going to get into that in number 6. But the big thing is defensive front, we need to stop the running game. We've been doing really well with preventing the running game and making people beat us with their arms. And that's part of the bend out break because we don't allow
Yep.
the big passes, or at least we haven't this season. It's really been the Eagles game where we've got hurt. Even last week, I mean, yes, CD Lamb had over 100 yards, but those were, for the most part, short passes that added up over time.
Yep.
We didn't allow him to bust a big one really on us,
No, we did pretty.
and still didn't
Yeah,
let him in the end zone.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's one of those things where, they really tightened up once we got into the red zone, which is, kind of been their theme all year. And it was kind of even last year the team was a lot like that. It's like, all right, we get into the red zone, we hold them to a field goal, we're
Mhm.
good. And I think we'll probably continue to see that tomorrow. Um, so I mean, do we want that? No, but we'll definitely take it.
All right. Vikings key number 4, the red zone efficiency versus the Giants D. It's been great. Last 2 games, nothing to complain about because we're most of the time we're scoring touchdowns. And that's a big change from what we've seen even this entire season, not just when JJ McCarthy has been there. So we love him. I hope to see him in the Pro Bowl. I love Will Reichard, but
Yeah.
I love it even more when we're scoring touchdowns. So Vikings red zone efficiency, we gotta make sure that we're capitalizing on that and getting up early and putting pressure. That way our defense can pin their ears back.
Yeah, it definitely helps relieve the pressure on them, and I thought we saw that early on. It's one of those things: is our defense that bad, or is it just they're constantly on the field? And that's what it was. They were constantly on the field. As soon as we started putting up, points on the board, it was like a completely different defense out there.
hmm Yeah. So continue to have good percentages in completing and turning those into touchdowns, not just field goals. Yes, we want the scoring opportunities, and that's great. But touchdowns, yeah, you're going to take that every time. We saw that the Cowboys, that was the downfall of them. Red
Yeah,
zone efficiency. They had to kick 6 field goals. If they don't kick 6 field goals, they probably score 40 points on us
yeah,
in that game. But our defense held them, and that was super important. And same thing for us on the offensive side of the ball. If we're being held to field goals, that means that we're keeping the Giants' hopes up and we're keeping them in the game and giving them confidence. And that's what we don't want to do.
no. And you're talking about a team that's I think they got 8 losses in a row. I mean, you go down and you score a couple touchdowns early, it's really going to take a lot of wind out of their sails. I'm not saying that it'll make the game that much easier, but it's not going to take them. It's not going to take much to get them disinterested in the rest of the game.
Crush that morale
Yep.
and that motivation right away early in the game and then roll.
Yep.
All right, number 5, the success with the running game. This has been important these last 2 games, and we've seen it and we've been upset at it in the losses to where we've seen where we've had success with the running game, and then the second half comes and we've forgot about it. We get away from it, or we've been frustrated because Kevin O'Connell, was not running the ball on 3rd and short type situations. Maybe getting too cute with play calling, and I think we're having success with the running game and, stick with it,
Yep.
stick with it. So we're seeing large chunks of average yards per game. And both of these guys are doing a great job right now.
Yeah, and I think we saw like was it the Washington game? Might have even been last week. There was a couple early runs that just got stuffed for nothing. And I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, is KOC going to stick with it here, or is this going to be one of those ones where all of a sudden he's going to switch gears and start passing? And he stuck with it, and all of a sudden they started finding holes. All right, we start gashing him for more yards here. We're getting 5 or 6 a clip, and he just continued to stick with it. And I think that's where his thinking's starting to change a little bit. We know
Mhm.
that's not his style of gameplay, but seeing him stick with it and having it help McCarthy has been great.
Yeah, it works off of each other really well, and I think JJ is probably even better when he rolls out in play action. And play action is usually not that effective if you don't have a running game going. So
Yeah.
if we can get that running game going, that helps us in those rollout opportunities, especially when we got an offensive line that's a little bit banged up on the edges. So we're probably going to add some more protection, on the edges with our tight ends, but still being able to roll out JJ McCarthy to, and sliding your protection a little bit to give him a little bit more time and a little bit more room to maneuver and make the right sound decision, I think is going to be important in this one.
Yeah, definitely. Probably gonna see a lot of 12 personnel,
Yep.
just to just to help out and chip there where needed. But I think, like you said, establishing the run early is going to be huge.
Yeah, and when we start playing 12 personnel like that, you've seen Josh Oliver,
Yeah,
have some success in
yeah,
that to where, we switch it up on them. They
mm,
think that they're getting a run with that 12 personnel.
yeah.
And then we switch it up and it's a Josh Oliver pass and, touchdown. So
His hand,
Josh Oliver.
when we signed him, people said his hands are underrated because he was primarily a blocker coming from
Right?
Baltimore, and like he catches it when it's there. So I have no problem with that. I enjoy seeing it.
Absolutely. All right. So number 6, this is the biggest one, I think, that I want to see on this. Now, the other stuff, yes, I want to see it, but I definitely want to see Dallas Turner, like you talked about.
Yeah,
I want to see him be able to generate pressure and continue to roll. Now, I
yeah,
saw some people on social media talk about Dallas Turner and some of the sacks that he had. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about some of the sacks he had were on beating running backs or tight
yeah,
ends.
yeah,
You know what? Some of the best defensive ends or edges in the league get their sacks beating those same plays. And
right.
just like we were talking about the Vikings doing what they should do
Yeah,
against bad defenses, Dallas Turner's doing what he should do against somebody that he should beat.
yeah.
So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it because he wasn't doing it earlier in his career. We weren't seeing it last year,
Mhm.
and we weren't seeing it earlier this year. So, if it's there and it's happening, that's great. You can kind of like when you say you can only play who's on your schedule. Well, he can only go up against who's in front of him. So,
Right.
we want him to beat those tight ends or beat those running backs and get to the QB.
Yeah. So if they were sliding more protection towards the way of Jonathan Grenard and
Yeah.
we'll see if that's the same story without Jonathan Grenard, JG playing on Sunday. You can't count out. I mean, we almost got to see a Gink 6 last week. We'll see if we get to see it again. You got a young rookie quarterback. How much tape did you watch on Andrew Van Ginkel to where
he,
you don't throw screens to his side of the ball? I don't
he,
know if there's like the very first thing of how you start the meeting
yeah,
when you start talking about your screen game. But the very first thing when you're playing the Vikings should be if Andrew Van Ginkel's on that side of the field, you
don't
call
go
an
there.
audible. Yeah,
Yeah.
you switch it to the other side of the field or something.
And they did that last year. They opened up the season against the Giants. I was at the game, and Jones threw the pick six to Gink on the same, on a screen pass like that. And I almost think that's one of those opportunities that Flores creates with his defense, because he throws so much at these young quarterbacks that they want to get rid of the ball quick, and that's like their first read is like go there. So it almost makes it. I don't say it makes it easy for Gink, but it
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier for him.
Yeah, no, I want to see it. I want to see him be able to have success, generate pressure. It doesn't always have to result in sacks. Sometimes it's generating pressure that, pushes, uh, Jackson Dart, maybe
Yeah,
into Andrew Van Ginkel or
yeah,
into Eric. Now I'm spacing right now, but into our linebackers,
yeah,
So just the big thing on Sunday that I want to see is Dallas Turner, just like JJ McCarthy. These are two young rookies that are tied to the same rookie class 2 years ago
yeah.
that we both players we we moved up in the draft to go get. So we have high expectations and we need them to work out.
Yep. With
So
Quasey's draft record, he definitely needs those two to really I don't want to say save his job, but possibly save his job.
so you brought it up. So because you brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Next. All right. Do you think this game and these next 3 games have any bearing on whether or not Kwesi remains GM?
I do. I think the quality of play over the last 2 games has definitely stepped up from how it looked earlier in the season. And I think they need to finish the season strong, especially when you think about not so much the Giants, but you think about the 2 games after. Green
Mhm.
Bay's obviously still playing for a playoff spot. I didn't see the finish of this game where it is today. And then you have Detroit, who is kind of on life support for a playoff game. So if the team can finish strong, I think Kwesi's safe for at least another season.
Yeah, I think that, you have people that are on the fence of, mail it in, draft picks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But this team is trying to build something, and they're playing for something, and that's to continue to develop, and because they're seeing, hey, we could be something next year.
Yeah.
And you have people that are trying to play because they want to remain on this team for another year because of the contract situation. So you do have a lot of that. JJ McCarthy is playing to make sure that we're not bringing in a quarterback to, compete with him for the job, that instead we're bringing in a quarterback to back him up.
Yeah.
That's also what's on the line for these next 3 games. And I think if we didn't do what we did these last 2 weeks, yeah, Kwesi's for sure on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I think if we go and we confidently beat the Giants on Sunday, I think Kwesi remains the GM through the offseason into next year. I don't think that there's any doubt in my mind. We can lose the Packers and the Lions game. Those are 2 teams that are jockeying for playoff position. They have a lot more on the line than we do. And then I think at that point, hey, we've proven what we need to prove. You saw us shut down Hargrave. Did we have to? I think it was the right move because of where we're at for Darisaw. I think if we're in the hunt, Darisaw's still playing or trying to play. So again, I think we're getting closer to gradually transitioning into let's start developing for next year with younger players, Tyrion Inger and Dawkins, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and getting those guys reps, Elijah Williams.
Yeah.
You're seeing what we're doing at the safety position.
More Jay Ward,
Theo Jackson situation, and maybe lost his starting position to Jay Ward.
Yeah. When he's out there, he's been solid.
So I mean, it's something to watch, but I really think this is, I don't want to say the last game, but I think that this is definitely the game that we need to go out and confidently win. The last 2 games, yes, I'd like to see us play well, play confident, beat a division rival against the Lions and the Packers. It's always a good day when you see a division rival go down, but I don't think we have to. And I don't think that bears any weight on probably a lot of these coaching positions or GM jobs. And this may have saved even some coaching jobs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if there is. I would have said 3 weeks ago, probably you're going to see some drastic changes in the front office if it wasn't, Kwesi. Drawing a blank on his name there. The guy from the Colts, who's our, assistant GM there. Drawing a blank on his name. But like I for sure would have seen him out of a job. Maybe some of the coaching staff, the offensive line coach, people have been
Special
calling
teams,
for his. They've been Daniels. People have been calling for his head all year. So we still may see some of those tweaks come in the offseason. But with the way the team's played, and like you said about tomorrow, and just how they play over the next couple of weeks, maybe not winning them, but as long as the team continues to show up, obviously KOC's safe, Kwesi's probably safe, especially because they had the those extensions in the offseason. So has it been a disappointing season? Yeah. Has there been enough blame to go around to everybody? Definitely, yeah.
But you've also seen a team that has the capability, when they have good quarterback play from JJ McCarthy, beat the Lions in Detroit, beat the Dallas Cowboys. And I get it. The Dallas Cowboys right now have a losing record. Now they have a losing record because of us.
Yeah.
But that's a really good team.
Yeah.
That is a really good team. They're a dangerous team because of the offense, and they're getting better on defense. And if they had that same defense at the beginning of the year, I don't think their position in the playoffs is in question.
Right.
I think that's a lot better team going into next season than where they were this year. And I think the Eagles have something to worry about next year from that team.
I can't figure the Eagles out. Just watching them, I'm like, I just don't know how they continue to win.
And since we're at least talking, got to give an update, right? So it's fourth quarter. There's a little over 4 minutes now at 4 minute mark. It's 16-6. Green Bay is beating Chicago right now. So, and if you weren't tracking, Jordan Love did have to come out of that game. So, and I believe he did not return, and Malik Willis has been handling the duties there. So, and he's 7 of 9 with a touchdown for 84 yards. So, he's been playing well. He's also ran for 44 yards. So, um, they're almost doing better with Malik Willis. So, there is that. Um, yeah. So, there's your divisional update of the game that's going on currently, if you were wondering and you're not watching that game at the same time you're watching the stream.
Yeah, I was watching it earlier, and it's one of those games like, who do you root for? I do. It's one of those games. It's just like, can they both lose? But when it comes to the Bears, I feel they've played a fairly questionable schedule. They've gotten timely turnovers.
Mhm.
There's no question Caleb. He's not the best passer, but he has that escapability, which has saved them this year. But I just don't see them going very far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would like to actually see the Bears um do better
Yeah.
and have a better finish the record a little bit higher than the Packers in the Lions. And the reason for that is I think net going into next year, now they have to play a first place schedule.
Yep.
Green Bay is going to be without Micah Parsons possibly for part of the year.
Yep.
That's going to hurt them. And I just think that helps us overall for them, because Chicago had to play a fourth place schedule this year.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Now,
Yeah.
have they played well? Sure, to an extent. But if you really dive in deep, there's been a lot of talk. Are the Bears frauds?
Yep.
They're winning games, but they're not outscoring opponents over the long haul of a season.
Yep. Yeah. They're getting, and I said this about the Vikings last year is our defense came up with a lot of timely turnovers, and that's kind of what you're seeing out of the Bears this year. They're getting the timely turnovers, and
20 of them.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't think I don't have the game out. I had it on earlier, but I don't think there's been any Green Bay turnovers this game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that if I had to pick out of the three, I would rather see the Bears finish the highest,
Yeah.
then Detroit, and then Green Bay. If just because I feel like that gives them, I don't want to see Detroit with a third place schedule next year. I feel like that's a cakewalk for them at that
Yeah.
point. So I'd like to see them at least have the second. I think Jordan Love's capable of combusting at any time. So I would give them the third place schedule if I had to pick.
Yeah, that sounds
So
about it's for me it's like whichever one. I take a little bit of joy and this is Detroit's Super Bowl window. They're the favorites in the NFC this year, and like for them to like not even possibly not even make the playoffs is kind of great.
yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with us about this Vikings Giants game on Sunday?
I got them winning 28-14. I think they're going to jump out early and, just I think they're going to get dark confused. I think we're going to see a couple turnovers. I would not be shocked if we see a Gink 6 there. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I was going to go to the game. I had tickets, and then I ended up turning them down. Kind of regretting that now. But no, I'm looking forward to the Vikings having a great game. I think we're going to continue to see the progression on the offense out of McCarthy. I'm excited to see what he does.
Well, I definitely want to go ahead and thank you, Chris, for joining the show. This is our very first one. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties for our first week, but we'll get it back on track. But I hope that you'd be interested in coming back on again. And I think we'll have all the connection things figured out as well. And it'll maybe start a little bit smoother. But this is exciting. I'm excited to share with you guys Vikings Playbook. This is something that I think I want to bring on people like you, Chris, and other social media personalities they're just fans out there, and sometimes opposing views from other teams as far as what they think they need to do versus us to try to get a win. So I'm really excited for not only the last 2 games of the season for Vikings Playbook, but then also going into next season. Now, just a sneak peek into next week. Christmas, right? I'm trying not to have issues with family stuff going on. So you may see a Vikings pregame show happen on the 23rd instead of the 24th. And that might be a double header between the other podcast that I run, which is the Fantasy 15. Please make sure that you check that out at Fantasy 15 FB. So if you're into fantasy football, and hopefully you're doing well this week. I had to start Josh Jacobs this week, and that might be rough. I also had to play Christian Watson this week in another league in my semifinals. So it might be dicey for me. But if you're making that third place game or the championship, go ahead and tune in for next week for a championship edition of the Fantasy 15. And then also, please make sure that you're checking in on different articles that I'm writing for Purple PTSD. That's exciting new thing for me. And then again, every week, at least during the Viking season, I'll be bringing you the Vikings Playbook pregame shows with hopefully talented individuals like Kris that can come on and talk a little bit of Vikings football, or those of you that out there that just want to come in and share your fandom and be a part of this podcast. So that's really what it is try to give you guys as a fans a voice, because that's really what probably Kris and I mostly are. I mean, yeah, we dive into the games, but we're fans just like you guys, and we're bleeding purple, and we want to see them win, succeed, and get there at some point. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. If you haven't already, please make sure that you're following us on X. That's at Vikings Gallerhorn. You can see it on the bottom of your ticker. And then also make sure that you set your alert if you're following us on YouTube, which is at Vikes Playbook. So at Vikes Playbook on YouTube. And then I'm starting to get the Facebook and the Instagram going for Vikings Playbook as well. So you can go ahead and search as Vikings Playbook on Facebook and Instagram. So your Sunday starts here with Vikings Playbook. It's been great having Kris. If you haven't already, follow him on social media on X. He's at T Gallerhorn1. He's our guest host today and special guest. Kris, thank you so much. One last time, any last thank yous or goodbyes that you want to say?
No, thanks for having me on, man. Glad to kick off the podcast, and hope to be on again.
Absolutely. And you'll definitely have an invite to be on with us again. And thanks everyone else that's out there for watching. We'll see you next time. Skull Vikings, let's get the win on Sunday.